Miranda is going to take a lot of money, and joining us right now for more on why the money matters so much, Newsmax Chief Washington correspondent John Gizzi. Also with us, Cate Martel, political reporter at The Hill. Guys, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for having us.
All right, John, let's start with you. Who is in the most enviable position right now when it comes to remaining candidates in terms of money? You got Donald Trump, who's self-funded. You got Marco Rubio, who's got some momentum behind him, perhaps. Or you got Ted Cruz, who's still got a lot of cash and has been very smart with his money thus far. Out of all three, who would you pick?
Well, I would have to say all of the above for the simple reason every one of them have demonstrated having the resources and the muscle to compete and go the distance right up until the convention. Donald Trump, as you mentioned, can write his own checks for this. Marco Rubio continues to get endorsements and money by the day. The more candidates drop out, the better off he is. And Ted Cruz has long built a following that has kept him in the black for a while. I note that in some states you wouldn't think of, such as Pennsylvania, there's Cruz money in them there hills in the Keystone State. And I wouldn't write off John Kasich either for the simple reason, as Miranda touched on, that Jeb Bush's exit is already opening up endorsements, and that's going to lead to money for him. So again, I say all of them are well positioned to go the distance, and I would write none of them off.
Okay, we know Jeb Bush's campaign spent $115 million between him and his super PAC, $400 about for every single vote they received. Why did Jeb Bush's money not help him out more in this election?
Well, this has been a very unusual election, as we all know, by far. And usually campaign cash has a lot to do with outcomes, but it really hasn't had that much to do with it. And I think that Jeb Bush has had three main problems. First is obviously his last name. The Bush family name has not been considered a helping point when he's been running in this election. I think the next biggest issue is that he's been pinned as the establishment candidate. And in this election, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have both been Bernie Sanders has been raising a lot of campaign cash in small dollar amounts, and Donald Trump really hasn't been spending that much money. This is an election that's against the Washington establishment, and both of these candidates have really kind of epitomized this is what they can do without being that Washington establishment.
Well, speaking more about Jeb Bush, John, there's been a lot of hand-wringing since Saturday's announcement that he was suspending his campaign. One Bush bundler apparently told CNN's Dana Bash that when it came to Mike Murphy, who was running the Right to Rise super PAC, that he made a minimum of $14 million. Well, Murphy denies that. He calls that figure absolute BS, or horse hockey, as somebody told me one time. But, you know, these consultants, they were kind of maligned after the 2012 and 2014 elections. Is that going to be the same situation this year? Is money, it's not just what you have, but how you use it. Is that what's really more important these days?
I think it is, but there's always going to be someone that one plays the blame game with. Morton Blackwell, the Republican National Committee man from Virginia and a venerable conservative going back decades, has said for a long time that the party's grassroots, who are primarily conservative, have to take away control and power from the consultants who are money driven. And the consultants keep coming back because they know where to place ads and how to produce them, but the animosity continues to grow. One postscript on Jeb Bush. David Petruska, historian and frequent guest on Newsmax TV, told me that it was primarily the fact that Americans have never had someone with the same name three times in the White House, not the Adamses, not the Harrisons, no one. And second, it was not so much that he was Bush 3.0, but Jeb Bush was Huntsman 2.0, a moderate like Governor John Huntsman who took issues such as immigration and climate control and took positions that infuriated the party's more conservative grassroots. Under those circumstances, $1 billion wouldn't have nominated him.
All right, Kate, unfortunately, we only have about 30 seconds left to go, but do you see this being the last campaign where political consultants really play a factor, or are we stuck with consultants forever?
I think the consultants always come down to what campaigns want to spend. And Ben Carson, as you were saying, is getting close to running out of campaign cash. He spent the majority of his money on these campaign consultants. So I think that we're going to start seeing people in the future looking more strategically at campaigns. I think a lot more of the digital aspect is coming in, and you don't need as much manpower if you can, send out an email mailer rather than sending out all of the big mailers, especially that Ben Carson has been doing. So I think we're going to see a big shift in campaigns the next 2 cycles.
All right, Cate Martel, John Gizzi, as always, thanks for joining us. Look forward to having you both back real soon. More to come here on Newsmax Now.